Sam. We're back for another episode of Chrysalis Collective, the podcast. We took a nice little break.
We did. We took 2 weeks off from recording the podcast. I missed you. I missed
you
this.
too. I know. I missed just being in your presence.
It's good to be back for sure.
And it's Pride Month! Yeah, so this month we're going to be focusing on the queer aspect of the spectrum, both identifying as queer. Definitely feel like it's important to highlight things during this month, but we also touch on it all the time. It's just an extra fun little time to dive into all of it, and today we're going to be talking about coming out.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, I honestly hate that it's even a thing. Like, the idea of coming out is just so, like, why do I need to tell you that this is, like, a part of me? Can it not just be? Like, do I need to announce it? And it's, like, coming out is such a continuous thing. Like, you don't just do it once and then it's over. It's, like, this is something that people always, like, when I'm having interactions with people, it's in, like, sometimes in the back of my head, especially, like, being Hispanic, that's like, I don't know if you knew everything about me right now, like, would you still treat me the same? And I hate that. So it's like, I get it, you know, I get that coming out is a thing, but also it's like, damn, it's just like, it's a lose-lose kind of thing, it feels like at times.
I feel like coming out, at least for me, was so much more about coming out to myself and, like, getting to a point of, like, knowing who I am and feeling like I am accepting and embracing and enthusiastic about this part of my identity, this part of who I am, that I, like, once I got to a point in life where I was like, yes, I'm ready to, like, embrace my sexuality fully for what it is and for who I am. I didn't care about anybody else, you know, anymore. I didn't feel like I was like, oh, I have to tell you guys a secret about me, or I have to announce anything to you. I was just more like, it should have been this way, you know, for 15 years, but we're here now, and this is who I am, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a super liberating feeling to just, like, walk in your truth in that way, like, know that it's just, a part of you, and it does have a space, like a very specific space within me. I feel like that's been my experience, and I think more so because I've had to have those conversations with, like, myself first. Like, I remember being in therapy and, like, initially going to therapy and telling my therapist, like, I'm bisexual, but, like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it.
Your therapist is like, okay, write down later, we'll get back to you.
Exactly. Like, a whole year later, we circled back and was like, she was like, oh, so you're, like, with all of the inner work that I had done, I had gone to a place where it was like, I'm just so authentic and genuine in who I am as a person that this is naturally just going to flow with it, and this is naturally going to unfold, and it's like, I can't not just stop being vulnerable. Like, if I wanted to stunt my growth, then sure, like, that would have been the option.
For sure. And I considered that for a long time. I was like, you know, you don't have to come out and be openly bisexual. You don't have to come out and, like, let this be a part of your identity, you know, like, you can still just be who you are and secretly, like, have this label, you know, and it'll be okay, because obviously, like, you can pass for straight, and so, like, nobody has to know any of this about you. You don't have to face any of it, and it's not a big deal, you know, but that it was doing exactly what you said. Like, it was very stunting to who I am and to my growth as a person. And once I was like, okay, I can't keep, you know, not letting this part of myself breathe. I have to be openly and comfortably bisexual and enthusiastic about it in my life, and, like, my kids and my family need to all be on this journey with me, then, you know, it just really exploded my spiritual growth. It exploded my connection to my womb, my cycle, and to just other women, other womb holders too. Like, my relationships felt so much more authentic, and everything made so much more sense.
Well, there's that depth that you meet yourself with, and like that extends to the depth that you're able to have in relation to other people. So that makes a lot of sense. And I also think that it's important to highlight that, like, somebody coming out to you, somebody giving you that information about themselves is privileged information.
Definitely.
Nobody owes you that at all. I know that at times it's felt like, if I don't feel safe, then like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I don't feel safe being vulnerable with you. So like, that's not going to be a part of our relationship, and that's fine. There's plenty of people that I, you know, have in my family or whatever that it's like, they don't know that about me.
Yeah, and they don't need to.
And they don't need to.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's safer for you and better for you to not, like, be...
But then also, I'm not close to you,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
like,
they actually don't know you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what you want to know, or this image that you've drawn up in your head, but you don't really know me. And that's like, I've had to really come to terms with that, because some people, they're not going to be accepting, and they're not going to change, and they're not, you know, like, they're not going to be receptive of me in my entirety, and that's okay. Like, I've made a lot of peace with that being the case, and I know that it's taken a lot to like build the safety and vulnerability within like my immediate family, like my parents and my brother, and like, you know, just immediate family. And I feel like, since we're talking about coming out, I'll share my coming out story with my parents, because I feel like it's really a testament to like what doing the work, you know, that spiritual inner work and connecting with myself and like allowing myself to be vulnerable really gave my parents the space to see me and just like radically love me. And it happened when I was like 24. I remember I had been dating someone at the time and was just like, oh, I had been avoiding this for a long time, and now it's like very in my face. I remember I used to be like, well, maybe I'm just like sexually attracted to women, but not like romantically. Like, maybe it's just that, right? Like, it's really truly, I'm just bisexual.
Yeah,
like,
I had the same.
Like bisexual, but not biromantic.
I just think you're really pretty. I just like think women are really attractive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is definitely like that acceptance of myself, you know, just being like, okay, yes, no, I could see myself like spending the rest of my life with a woman. And I talked to like my therapist about it, and was just very like, I don't know how to go about this, like, because I've been able to pass as straight for such a long time. It's like, nobody's like, my mom had asked me a couple of times, but I think that she like had intuitive hits, but I kept on denying it. So it's she was just like, okay, well, she said no, so like she's gonna take it as a no. And so I remember, I feel like the time that I spent living with my family, there was a lot of spiritual work in that, and like having to create safe space with each other, like having to really let them see me for the adult and the human that I am, and like for them to parent me from that angle and that perspective, instead of them knowing what's best for me. Like, that wasn't the case anymore. So we were just like butting heads a lot, and I think that ultimately it came down to like, okay, you have different values than what I do, and so we need to really put those out in the open, because we're not able to fully see each other and meet in like a firm middle ground, because you have expectations of what my value should be. And so we had a conversation where we're like, okay, I proposed the idea of like, let's all separately write down our values, our family values individually. What do we see for our family? What do we want in our family? Like, what's important to us? And then let's come back, let's have dinner, come back and talk about all our values one by one. And so my parents went, my brother went, and then I was at the very end, and I did that purposely because I'm like, I'm not about to, like, let's, you know, have the discussion that's needed, and then let me, like, tell you guys what I need to really tell you, like, what this conversation is really about, you know? And so I remember just being like, well, one of, like, the last value I had said was, like, one of the values that is, like, really important to me is just acceptance. And I have something that I want you to accept about me. I'm bisexual, and I just feel like it's really important for you guys to know that about me. And I remember my mom's jaw just, like, dropped, and my dad was just like, you could see it all in his eyes. Like, when my dad's surprised by something, his eyes get, like, super big, and I do that too. I realize I, like, just super, like, and whenever we had, like, you know, let that sit for a while, they were just kind of like, okay, well, you know, we need to just, like, process this, but just know that we love you. This doesn't change how much we love you. We know that this was really hard for you to tell us, and, like, it's just gonna take us a minute. Like, you've known this about yourself for so long, but we didn't know this, and so it's just, like, a shock. And I remember I, like, left for the weekend and was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I had already come up with a plan to, like, be out of town afterwards and, like, just get some space so everyone could
just let it
sink in.
Yeah, simmer for a little bit. Well, because, like, people, when you come out to somebody, it's not like you're just saying, like, oh, hey, I just realized this, or, like, I just, you know, started feeling this way or being this way. It's like, oh, no, this is who I've always been, and I'm just now, like, at a place where I'm ready to integrate you into it and integrate this into my relationship with you.
Yeah, I think it was something that really, like, made me feel a lot safer with my parents after coming out with them. Like, I know, like, my parents are extremely supportive and very loving, and, like, that has just strengthened our relationship. Like, I love my parents. They're great. That's why I really love my parents, and I feel like that's why I made it a point to, like, repair my relationship while I was living with them, and really have them get to know me and, like, build that vulnerable safe space so that when I moved out, I wouldn't have been in a space that I was avoidant of them or feeling like I didn't want to come home. Like, I knew that I needed to, like, lay down that groundwork so that when I came back, it was like, I know that this is a safe space for me, so I want to come back. Like, I feel like that's one of, honestly, my greatest accomplishments in life.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, because it's really taken me, like, putting in that work and being able to do
grace
that.
and to have grace for everybody in that situation, and to know that, like, you are taking information to a generation and to a family that hasn't had, you know, maybe had to wrestle with this openly in the same way that they're going to now.
Yeah, because there's family members in my immediate family, like uncles, cousins, and stuff that are queer too. There's so many of us, you know, but it's very much like we're not really gonna talk about it. Like, that's outside of our immediate, you know.
Are there other queer women in your family?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it's been more of like that's a them, like, oh, we see it from a distance, so it's like not something we're necessarily dealing with, but now it's like, no, we're here, and we're everywhere. Like, the queers are everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes.
The queers are infiltrating for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, so that was 3 years ago, and then so, like, what has it looked like then for you to go from kind of wrestling with this part of yourself, knowing this part of yourself, to, like, being willing to, like, speak life to it and to let it be really who you are. You know, you're in a relationship with a woman, and, like, what was that journey like?
I mean, I think it's really a journey of self-love.
Yeah.
That's truly what I've seen it as, and the more that I've poured into that authentic part of myself, like the real essence of what I am, because like how you love and who you love is like such a deep thing. Like it's such a deep part of who I am. So, and it like love, sure, it is romantic, but it expands. Like love, I feel like is exponential.
Yeah.
It just grows
It's an
and
abundance
exactly.
with love. It's not a restrictive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That energy can't be restricted.
Mm-hmm.
Like so my ability to flow with it and really cultivate it for myself has only been mirrored to me back in my romantic partnerships, and I feel like my relationship that I'm in now is just like really a testament to that. It's such a safe and loving and non-judgmental space. Like I am really thankful that I love myself so much that I'm able to receive that kind of love from somebody else. And the self-love portion of it, it's like it's continuous. Like it's something that, because I've become unrestricted in it, it's just like continuously growing, and it's been really beautiful to like recognize that being a quality that I have, that I'm able to just love very deeply. And like I really hope that everyone around me feels that.
Yeah. I remember the first time I met you in person and we were talking about queerness and everything, and I was like, tell me what does it look like for you? And you were just like talking about the ability to love and to be loved and to accept love in all of the ways that it looks. And I really took that to heart and was like, I'm gonna embody that and like let love move in and out freely and abundantly, like not putting limits or definitions or labels onto it all the time, and just allowing love to be really what it is organically.
Yeah.
So you definitely embody that. Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, yeah, because it's just it's liberating. Like you just can't put any barriers on it. Like it's just like a 360 thing, you know?
Yeah, once you go from like having a part of yourself that you've kept in a box or kept in the shadows, or that you haven't like allowed to fully breathe and speak like life to it, like once you go from that to embracing who you are and loving who you are and calling in love like that reflects that, then like you don't ever want anybody to feel anything else, than that. And like truth attracts truth and calls truth, and then like once you are living in truth and you're living in alignment, then like you are open up to so many more just possibilities.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I feel like my womb has really yearned for that and has like there's been so much freedom in that, and the like calling myself who I am and what I am and feeling safe in that. And because I grew up in my home and in my church, like being taught that like bisexuality doesn't exist.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, that you can't be bisexual, that it's not real, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember being 16, 17 years old, sharing this with like being like, yeah, that's just like what I was taught, and like I was at every single like queer event, like all my friends were gay. I like was very obviously like queer from a young a young age, but just like being so ingrained in me, even though I'm like a part of these communities and like allying, whatever, trying to do
pseudo allying.
I'm like, yeah, but obviously I can't be bisexual because that's like not a real thing, and so just like
it's hard.
Yeah,
I think being bisexual is like, it's hard to come to terms with. It's like I don't it's a very
It's very
specific
specific, for sure.
discovery of self. Like, I can't relate to my partner because they're lesbian.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's very much been like, oh, I've always known that I don't
I
like
don't like
this.
boy,
And I'm
yeah.
just like, but I have always known that I've liked both. And that's even more confusing because I remember being like 5 years old, kissing little girls and little boys on the playground. Like, very much just like exploring that, but it not being in any kind of sexualized way. It's just like, I like you. Like,
yeah.
I like you and you're my friend and I love you. I want to kiss you. Like, it was always that. And so that and like its pure essence was like, no, you're attracted to both. But like growing up and then all of the conditioning that comes with sexuality and being raised in the Catholic Church, like that was very confusing because it's like, well, and that's why I think I dated men for so long.
For sure, it's easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought I could just like opt out of having to do the work and opt out of having to like come out or label myself or anything because I could just like get by. No pun intended, you know, by being with guys. And it wasn't until I was like in college, like 18, or like I was into girls before that and like, you know, made out with girls and stuff and whatever, and it was always just like sleepover stuff, right?
I actually never did the sleepover stuff.
Oh no?
No, I was more of like, once I was in high school, once I was out of high school in college, I had like one friend that I knew was a lesbian and was just like, you're cute.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And then that was my like introduction, and then throughout college, like explored that side of myself. And it wasn't until I was like in the Peace Corps that I like really like opened up. Yeah, because it's like everyone was just, you're away from home, nobody knows
yeah,
you.
There's no rules.
There are no rules because
no
even like I felt constricted being in college, like not far from home, like an hour out. Texas State isn't far from Austin, and so feeling like there's too many people here that know me.
And
like,
that know people who know me, and they knew who I was. Yeah. I went to an all-women's school for my first year of college, and so removing boys from the picture at all really was when I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, this works too. This is great. You know, this is fun. But then, yeah, it wasn't until I was about like 19 years old where I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not straight. Not that like any of the other stuff that had nothing to do with it, but where I was like, yeah, maybe I'm actually like, yeah, maybe this isn't just like kind of fun, you know, or like some off brand thing. Maybe I'm actually not a straight woman. And then I met my husband around then, and he was so cute, and I was like, okay, I like you still. But I told him from the beginning that I was into women. I was like, by the way, like I'm pretty sure that I'm bisexual and that like I like girls, you know. And so he like always knew that about me, but it wasn't until we were like well established into our marriage with all these kids when I was like, hey, by the way, like I'm really into women, and like never fully allowed that to be a part of myself. Like I'm kind of struggling with not having gone through like a fully immersive queer awakening, or like I'm really struggling with just not having like allowed this part of myself to breathe, and part of it's because it was so comfortable for me to be with you. I could kind of get away with it and suppress it, but I just couldn't keep doing that. And so he was just, you know, very supportive of me like getting to a point where I could fully come out. And it, for me, it had nothing to do with like anybody else. It just had everything to do with like, yes, this is me, you know, and like validating it for myself, and that came with just so much self-love. And then, you know, coming out like to my kids has been kind of a unique, like weird type thing to do, because I'm like, what? I want my kids to not ever have to come out. If any of them are queer, you know, or like just, I don't want them to ever have to think that like there's a part of their personality that like they have to announce, or that has to be like anything other than just like, this is who I am. So they can bring home one person, two people, I'll like, no people, I don't care, as long as it's consenting, happy adults, you know, in their life. And so, or no adults, like I just want my kids to be who they are. But I have had to tell them, because like at one point, I think one time, my daughter, because I also like, we've always had open conversations about gender and sexuality, and so like we've always just tried to like raise our kids with an awareness of different like social norms and the like why they're harmful, what they like. We've always talked about the patriarchy, we've always talked about heteronormativity and racism and these things in my home. But one time, I think my daughter was telling me about like how one of her friends was laughing about somebody being gay, and I was like, hey, you know, that's not okay, we don't do that, and by the way, like, mommy is queer, like mommy is, I'm bisexual, like this is what that means. And so like, just so you know, if your friends are making fun of gay people, then they're also kind of making fun of mommy, and that's not okay. And so they were just, quiet, but like didn't have any questions, and it wasn't anything weird.
They're just like soaking
they just
it
took
in.
it in. Yeah, but I think it was just like another fact about their mom. It wasn't this whole anything to them, because they've been raised, knowing like, oh, you can grow up and you can love a boy, you can grow up, you can love a girl, like your gender gets to look like however it wants to, whatever you want it to look like, when we're here to support you and affirm you and your identity. But it's interesting, like, to have come to a place of like integrating queerness in motherhood and really feeling like I can take up space in that, because I think just being bisexual and in a like hetero relationship, there's part of me that's like, oh, you don't take up any space at the table, because there's so many other people who their voices need to be heard and their stories need to be shared and they need representation, and it's my job to like help facilitate and uplift that. But there is also this part of me that's like, hey, this is, I want to be seen, and I want to be seen as real too.
That's valid as fuck. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of been a journey of like, what's my place, in all of this.
I think also having a place is kind of bullshit, like you don't need, like there is no specific
There's not an
place.
Well, because it's infinite, right? Like it's love.
It's just love.
It's just
like,
love. Yeah.
That's what it is.
And there's abundance and there's room for everyone at the table. And so it's, if you come out at 6, at 16, 26, 36, 86, I think my like great grandfather came out in his 80s or something. I mean, he was probably closeted and hiding quite a bit of things probably, but different time.
Yeah, but it's all valid.
It's all valid.
Like this idea of disclosure, and especially like I'm just thinking within our practice of like, I want to be very open that it's like, it just is what it is. It's not like something that I owe you. That's not something that you, because it's just, that part is also kind of tricky, because like I don't think and I don't want to attract people that aren't open-minded to anything like that.
For sure.
So that's why like also in our like questionnaire and stuff, we're like, do I identify with the spectrum? So like other people know like this is something that we support.
Yeah,
like,
we're an affirming space.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for sure.
And our clients, even like our straight clients and their family, like I don't want clients who are also not an affirming and accepting space, you know? So if a client was offended by that question in our intake forms, then
we're
they're
not
not
for
the
you,
client for us, you know?
We're not for you, they're not for us,
Yeah.
for sure. So keep that in mind.
For sure. Oh, well. All right.
Bye.
See ya.
We're recording now, so.